What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Wednesday edition here on the Heat Ratio Sports Network of Fourth and Go. We're Philly 444. So much more. I'm Dave Gluckner. That's Marc Tomasini. I want to say it's a winning Wednesday. With us, it always is. But the Phils came up a little short today. We'll get into that. Looking forward to their series against the New York Mets, a 4-game series down at the bank this weekend. And we're going to talk Eagles. Coming off the game against the Jets, going into the game against the Browns, we'll break down both. And then we'll look a little bit into the Sixers. And if we have some time, maybe dance around some other areas as we have been lately with the fantasy football forecast. But with that, I'll bring in the man. What's up, Marc?
What up? What up? It's not Winning Wednesday, but the sun's always shining. It's nice. Weather's coming back down. We're getting closer to fall, getting closer to football. Football is, reigning king again. But, the Phillies are still keeping us in it. Obviously, today it didn't go well, but, you still got to be excited about what's coming. Big series coming up this weekend against the Mets, 4 games. Final 4 games against them. Let's see what happens with this. There's a lot to look forward to. So, and like you said, also Eagles this weekend too. So, a lot going on.
Yeah. We'll kick off with the pigskin first. We haven't done so in quite a while, and we'll be doing it a lot more going forward. But the Eagles wrapped up their first preseason game last Friday. A little late comeback by the Birds was met with a late comeback by the Jets. They go off losers, no big deal. But what was a big deal was what happened in the first quarter. And the offense looked crisp, looked great. Hurts goes 6 for 6. Moves the team down the field, touchdown to Dallas Goedert, and we're dancing on the first series of the season. It gives you kind of butterflies thinking of what could be and what is coming up this season. So I want to get your take of what you saw in that game. That's pretty much almost where it ended for me. I mean, I tried to watch some other things, but that was about it.
I mean, the Phillies were playing the Mets, for that Friday night game anyway. So, I mean, my plan the whole time going into that day was, as long as the first team offense is in there, I'm watching. Once they move on, look, it's just, if the Phillies didn't mean anything, I'd probably take a deeper dive into preseason football. But we know what it is. It's slop on a plate. That's just how you go. You barely see the first team. But what I saw was encouraging, to say the least. And honestly, I think it was the first or second play of the game. Hurts ends up, evading defenders, rolls out to the right. I don't think it was 28 yards, but it was 16 to 28 yards, somewhere like that. But he was running towards the sideline and threw a nice pass to Quez Watkins to get the offense going. And for me to see that, yes, look, he's not your prototypical pocket passer. I think obviously that's going to come with more work. But just seeing a play like that, it looks smooth. It wasn't totally improv. Like, it had a hint to it, but it didn't look like it was a lucky play. He, like I said, evaded defenders, and he just rolled out to his right and threw a nice, accurate pass. It wasn't, it was only where Watkins can get it. I think he had to get up a little bit for it, but I saw that and I was like, all right, you know what? Let's see what he does. I mean, 6 for 6 preseason, 1 drive, but and then he got into the end zone, but there was a holding penalty. It got called back. It was just a good series. The offense looked well. I think everybody was involved that needed to be involved. And they were missing a couple running backs. But overall, I was impressed with the drive. But that's probably the most that you're going to see. So we're going to go into this season still with a question mark, but encouraging the start.
Yeah. No, it was. If there's something I can take about it, and what's up, Cease? Thanks for checking in. It was efficient. What Sirianni wants to do, and why I probably will bet against them every game in the preseason, is he wants to show you nothing. His hand is pretty much just completely blank. He just wants to fold even before the flop. He wants to get through this preseason, 3 quick games. Let's get on the real stuff. So even with that said, you get a little excitement. You get a little bit, what's coming, and you're still getting and executing the plays. So that's what got me going. They looked accurate. They looked like they had been working on things. So I was happy with that. Outside of that, the rest of it, I'm just trying to remember even anymore.
Right.
Minshew, okay, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you really saw, what was it, Stinnett or something?
Reid Stinnett.
Yeah, for 2 quarters, and I've seen enough of that already.
Right.
I guess Carson Strong wasn't ready to go.
Right.
He's had a little bit of issues, and quite frankly, he might always have that problem. But it's good stuff, and that's what I'll take from a scripted series. It was as good as it could have been.
I would have liked to have seen them, take the top off the defense, and everyone's going, oh, the McNabb to Owens first play ever preseason game against Baltimore Ravens where they split. I wasn't expecting that, but I did want to see, but really there wasn't enough time to put that out there. And I don't think they're ready to go over the top yet. I hope they have something in store for when the season actually comes. It would be nice if they actually do try and take the top off the defense. And it will be different too when they have all 3 of their receivers. Devontae didn't play, so it will be interesting to see if, Devontae becomes more of the over-the-top guy. Like, I know Watkins is their fastest, but I think Devontae has the mix of skill and speed where if defenses pay more attention to AJ, that, those opportunities for Devontae to take the top off the defense and get past the safeties, if we could see some explosive plays there. That's what I'm hoping for this season. I don't know if we'll get it, but I mean, that definitely is where I want to see things go.
Yeah, and we're probably not going to see. I'd be surprised if we see Devontae on the field this whole preseason.
No.
Wouldn't you? Yeah.
He just came back. He missed like 2 weeks with a groin. Right. So, I mean, it's just like I'm saying, it's something that I hope for the season that we see from him, that his role might change a little bit now that he's not, quote unquote, the best receiver on the team, at least right now.
Yeah. No. But that's fine. I don't mind if we don't see him. Let's look forward to the Cleveland Browns game. The Eagles hit the road before
that, I do want to say it was only the Jets, but they did play their full starters, and the starters played 2 series. Defense looked good.
It did.
Good.
Yeah, it did. I will say that.
Had an interception.
Yeah, that was awesome. And I mean, obviously I don't know what really tweaked Zach Wilson's knee, but they were aggressive. Right. They were hitting. I don't quite remember how he got hurt. I don't know if it was on that run, but
it was on the run, and he got the surgery on it, I think, yesterday. Yep. But it was just a freak thing. He took a freak step, and you see because he kind of like jolts down and then just like flops down after that, trying to evade runners. But the Eagles kept them on their toes. The Jets, looked like the Jets. So I think it was a mix of both.
Yeah, I think you're right. I do think it was a little bit of, what you said, the Jets being the Jets, but at the same time, that defense is going to be very important to the Eagles this year, obviously. Seeing what the, defensive coordinator has, Gannon, going with more weapons will be interesting. Did we see Ray? Yes, I actually do see, and I was going to get into the news of probably why. We've already seen the wide receiver area be thinned out a little bit with the trade of J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. He was going to get cut anyway.
He was technically a tight end.
He was, but,
he's tight end this offseason.
Yeah, he was going to play whatever they wanted him to play if they had to force it, but they were going to cut him. I do think Rager, Pascal had a few nice catches over the middle with Minshew. Looked tough. Looked like a guy that's, not afraid of anything. So that's cool. But I just think you have a little bit more upside and, dynamic play with Rager that I think they're going to side him 3. They'll go 4 wide sometimes, and Pascal will get there in 4. So I do think that's what they're going to do. Some might argue with me and tell me it's Quez. I just think Quez is kind of a gadget. So I'm not sure he gets in over those 2 regularly, but he'll still get some snaps.
Yeah, I think it's going to be figuring out whether Rager is a player in this league or not. I mean, that's what it's going to take. I think that's the first situation. Then the next situation is when you need a veteran wide receiver. That's where Pascal comes in. But then, like you said, Quez is a gadget guy. He's speed. I don't think has done enough yet to cement himself as your solid number 3. That's just not where they're at in the current moment. I
Right.
think we've seen flashes from him. I think they know what speed he has, but for some reason they're not solidifying him as their number 3. But the first reason goes back to they want to figure out. They want to give Reagor every opportunity to turn into a player. Being a Howie first-round pick,
They will.
he's not going to give up on him until the very, very end.
Yep, I fully believe that too. So I do see Reagor getting the field and getting that chance in the 3. But one name we left out of there, Greg Ward. I just think at this point in time, it might be really hard. Now, he can play special teams, so he might wiggle his way in, but you got those few other fringe players that younger, faster. I'm not sure there's a spot for Ward anymore.
I know. Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends if Covey, is your guy, if you're a returner.
Yeah.
If that's what he is, he takes that 6th spot away from Ward. Again, that would be disappointing to me, not because of Covey. Really, I think it's because of Reagor. But I mean, but I get you have to do your due diligence and figure out this first-round talent. Even though to me he was a second-round talent going into that draft, and I think they reached. But with that being said, yeah, it's interesting that Greg Ward, who was a strong piece for this team just 2 years ago, probably is seeing his way out.
Yeah, but to me, I like Greg Ward probably not as much as you, but I do like him.
Correct. Yeah.
I just think, he's a nice player, and if I'm going to take a chance, I would probably take it more on a Britton Covey. And I think Greg Ward could probably come back around at some point if I needed to. So you might even be able to tuck him on a practice squad. I'm not sure what the rules are there with his service time, but I know, another team can snag him, but it'll be interesting. They got a few tough decisions, which is a good thing, right? That means this roster is fully stacked. If we're talking here about Covey, Reagor, Ward, battling for the last receiver spot before Ward was your number 2 just 2 years ago. It's a good situation to have. So let's look at Cleveland. Maybe a full first quarter and that's it for the offense.
I mean, I haven't heard anything yet. I know they're doing practices starting tomorrow, which will be interesting. I wonder if that's going to dictate at all the game plan that they put into place with the amount of time that starters play, because they, I know sometimes these organizations like to use the co-practicing as game situation, and they'd rather do that where there's not that they're not going to get hurt, but maybe less of a chance that they do. So I think that might play a part. I think I don't know if you heard anything, but I think a quarter is probably asking a lot at this point with the way that Sirianni's been running things over at camp.
I think it might be asking a lot. Let's say 2 series, and 2 series might take you the whole quarter. I do think you'll get one more series than the first time, and then you get nothing in game 3. So this is, I think you could see a quarter, and then it's a shame. At least back in the day, we would all be excited for maybe a full half. That ain't happened. That's just not the way it is anymore. But I will be excited for one quarter, and it'll be somewhat of a test. I think Cleveland has talent.
Yep.
I think they are probably undervalued in a lot of markets for the way they ended last year and what they have, the circus going on at quarterback and the release of Mayfield. But when you look deep into this team, they're not that bad. They got to figure out what to do with Kareem Hunt, asking for the trade and this and that. But defensively, they're pretty solid. They have a good D-line. Obviously, if Garrett plays, he's just a beast. Your boy from Notre Dame, Jeremiah, I forget the 3. JOK, yeah. We all liked him in the second round last year. They're just as solid. So it'll be good to see, and especially taking the game on the road. What I expect, 2 series, I'm looking for 1 score. If you could get me 7 points out of the 2 drives, I think we really end this preseason with a good feeling going to the regular season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, you're not going to get much. So, 2 drives, 3 drives, and you score 2 touchdowns. Can't be mad about it.
Yeah. No, we'd take that in a heartbeat.
Right.
A few other things. I mean, I haven't heard much outside of what's going on with the third quarterback, but I would expect that Minshew might go past half this time. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. But you know, you hear that story about him living in his van over the offseason?
Yes.
That was
Yep.
awesome. And then he came back and sold it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's
He
an interesting dude. He beats to his own drum.
he is. And I love to see him play, and I love to see him be our second quarterback. I'm good with it. I hope he does hang on here. Because I think having that backup quarterback that is good and actually serviceable is important for this team going forward.
There's two things with that. I like Gardner Minshew. I mean, you and I have been fans of him back when he was in Jacksonville, so there's no doubt about it. So I would like for him to be here. But the good thing is, if he's not here, it means they got a good deal for him. But then you do hold yourself a little thin at a backup. So I probably lean more towards with what you're saying. They're probably going to hold on to him, so they don't, because God forbid either something happens to Hurts or he just plays terrible. And with all the stock that you've put into this team and all the assets that you've put into it, Hurts is not the guy where if you lose him, you just give up on the season.
Right.
Minshew's a guy who can come in there and look. Here's the thing, Jeff Lurie. I told you I can say there's two things about him. One, all press is good press with him. I've said that since Vietnam. Two, he just wants to make the playoffs. Not saying that I don't care about making the Super Bowl, because they've made the Super Bowl and they won. But he just needs to make the Super Bowl so the bottom line continues to be a good bottom line. They're going to make money if they make the playoffs. Making the playoffs is very important to this team. Obviously, for every team, it's important. But when it comes to money, when you got people who will wait, 1,000 years down the line to get on season tickets, they just need to keep that product. They need to at least be decent.
Yep.
They've only had a couple seasons where they've been terrible. I mean, like, you look back in their recent history, like they had the season before Andy Reid got there, and then you get Donovan McNabb. You had a slow start. Then obviously you had that whole entire time frame leading through McNabb. Then you get the Chip Kelly. You won 10 games, and then you had one bad season. And then once you got the Peterson, even you started off mediocre with him, win the Super Bowl, playoffs a couple times, have a bad season. Now you got Sirianni. Sirianni takes you to the playoffs. So, there's only maybe 3 or 4 like bad seasons where they were picking at the top of the draft. Lurie needs the playoffs, and that's his way of making the money and making the bottom line work.
Yeah, I mean, I have a little stronger thought on that. I don't think it's just playoffs for him, but I think he wants to be Robert Kraft. I think he wants to wear those rings. I think he wants to be talked to like he's the man. Like other owners look at Kraft, like Goodell looks at Kraft. I think he wants that attention. Obviously, what you're saying is getting to the playoffs is that step that gets him a chance to be in the Super Bowl. Without the playoffs, there's no chance. So I do agree that, it's very important for him to build a team and get in the playoffs and have that chance. But I think it's bigger things that's on Jeff Lurie's mind. I really do. And a lot of times when you look at the bigger things, you lose sight of the smaller things. So I'm hoping, he can just let this thing ride and not get too excited. And we can figure it out and see how this team really reacts and responds, because I still think they have a dope of a coach. I mean, I'm just being dead honest. Like, I hope Sirianni's good. I really do. But do I trust him against, McVay? No. Right. Do I trust him against Shanahan? Like that. But hopefully I gain that trust. What's that?
You trust him against Bruce Arians?
Well, he's gone, but yeah.
No, I'm saying that game completely.
No,
it showed you what this team was at the time.
Yeah, absolutely not. And I mean, geez, I'm not even sure I trust him against Mike McCarthy. I think McCarthy is a buffoon. But in the end, like, I do think that it was only his first season, so I can see my trust growing in Sirianni. But yeah, with Laurie, maybe it's a little more. But I'm with you. I know what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
But I do think he has his eyes on bigger things. C says the Brown starters may not even play against the Eagles. And it goes back to, we'll see what happens during these live practices this week, because that's really where teams are kind of figuring it out anymore, because they've rested those practices and they're able to kind of control that a little easier than games sometimes. So, yeah, I agree. That could really drive the scenario. But with that said, no other, we got the Eagles news of the trade, and I do think the guy they brought in from Seattle has a shot to make this team. I mean, why else make the trade? He was a second-round pick in 19. So
he's a good coverage. He's a good special teams coverage player.
Yeah. And safety is really kind of where you need a little bit more flexibility. D-back, you could even need some help too, but I think you're pretty well set with the first three, and if not four with McPherson. So I think it's safety that you need a little help, and I think that's where you can fill in.
Well, one other thing too, that there's been a lot of talk about all of a sudden, Reid Blankenship. He's a safety who's been standing out and has actually started to get some first team reps. I think he's the brother of Blankenship from the Colts, I think the kicker. But apparently this kid can play safety. So that'll be an interesting development to see if he's, the guy who can do it. If I had to put money in somebody who's not your Marcus Epps or Anthony Harris, it was Kayvon Wallace. I haven't really heard much about him, but they say a third season is about where you figure out if you can play in this league or not. And he was somebody who, was safety for Clemson when they won the national championship. So, or were in there. So, I'm interested to see if one of those guys takes a step forward. And,
I like Kayvon, but it'll be definitely interesting here going forward. But all right, that's Eagles talk for today. We got a lot coming up in the next week or two, but the one thing we haven't hit on yet is our fantasy football segment. First, last 2 weeks we talked where was Hurts in our pecking order. I think we both kind of landed somewhere in the top 12 to 14 range. We talked AJ Brown. I think after we went through it all, 7 to 8, felt really comfortable with him in that range. Now let's get into the running back situation. And, our boy Tony Cotillo wrote something real interesting today. The man of positivity, I always say. Yeah, and I think we are too, but always seems to, rally around his teams, which I love. But he did have, something strong to say about Sanders. Another little injury, another, bad training camp it's looking like so far. And the faith is really, dwindling from Tony. And I think it's trickling down to many of us as well. I wouldn't trust Miles Sanders on any fantasy football team I have. And in fact, he's on my absolute do not draft list. I think Kenneth Gainwell is a guy that we can really, invest in. I'm probably looking at Gainwell somewhere around the 25th to 30th running back range, somewhere in the deep down bottom last starter range. But with that said, Mark, let me get your take on Miles Sanders.
So Miles Sanders coming from Penn State, following Saquon Barkley, I felt really good about him. But, he had this tendency. A running back like that works in college. His game just really hasn't translated to the NFL. Like you said, injuries have been key. My take of this, and I know you've seen the same thing, he's always trying to bounce to the outside, where the NFL, you need guys who can run downhill. Look, you don't need, bruisers. That's where you have split carries and running backs by committee. But he's a guy who has had some big home run plays, like 80-yard touchdowns. But, it's waiting for the line to make something happen. And as good as the Eagles' offensive line is, you can't always get those holes. And I almost feel like he's missing the holes that the line is giving him. Either they're not big enough, or they're not when he gets there. They've showed it. If he just, there were so many times where I said, why he bounced to the outside. He had 8 yards where he only got 2 going to the outside. It just seems to be the story of his career most of the time. He's probably in that, honestly, he could be seen as high as 15. He's in that 15 to 25 range of running backs, 15 being high. I think just because of name and just because of the team that he's on, and people think, oh, the Eagles running attack was good last year,
It
but
was.
it wasn't all him. It
No,
was Jordan
it's
Howard,
Hurts.
it was Hurts, it was, Boston Scott from time to time, Gainwell from time to time. Honestly, I'd rather focus on Gainwell, as you've talked about, and I think he takes a big step forward this year. He had a really good opening game last year against the Falcons. He really he had one touchdown, but the second one got called back for a holding penalty that I don't even think was the hold that he broke through. So I think, and you and I liked him coming out of the draft. He wasn't even drafted here yet, and we both had our eyes on him.
Memphis, yep.
Memphis running backs lately have just been, adjusting to the NFL. And I think he's going to be a little bit more than what we expected from him if he can be what you and I think he's going to be.
Yeah, I would flip him.
I think Sanders is phazed out by the end of the year.
Yeah, I would right now, if you're drafting in drafts and you see Sanders is the 25th ranked, I'd take the name out and I'd put Gainwell right in there right now. That's just my confidence in the Eagles running game and what they probably will end up doing. This guy's about to hit free agency. I think Sanders is once to get paid. It ain't happening. And I don't think it's, I'm with you. I think the phase out is real. And I think, we'll see. Yeah, ranked 25th ahead of guys like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Damian Harris, A.J. Dillon. But in all truth,
they're all better.
Yeah.
And, don't rule out Kareem Hunt, who is a Cleveland Brown.
True.
Been asking for a trade. It wouldn't surprise me if Howie made a move to strengthen that running back room, especially with the injuries that Sanders is going through right now. It would not surprise me.
It wouldn't either, but I know one thing, Howie's not going to pay for a running back. So we'll see what the price is, but he'll just let you cut him before, or let him ride on your bench. He's not going to pay for a running back.
Well, I mean, you think about though, they traded. Now it was an in-season trade, but they traded for Ajayi.
Right.
They didn't fully need a running back at the time, and Kareem Hunt has made it clear that he wants out. So leverage is kind of off the table on Cleveland's side. So, and they traded for Jordan Howard before. If they can some way, I think a fifth would be a steal, a fourth potentially a steal. But if you do a deal like that, you absolutely do it. They're not afraid to deal anything past a third, like above a third. They're not afraid to do that.
No, not at all.
If they can get a fourth round flyer on Kareem Hunt, they're going to do it.
Yeah. No, that's what he'll pay for. But all right, man. Just real quick, who's your top running back on the board in fantasy football drafts? A couple people, it seems like the consensus is up there, but it's A or B, and I'm just curious who your A is.
See, it's honestly, I've been, doing mock drafts, but I know I'm not picking number one, so I haven't been paying attention to that as much. Like I think in my one league, I'm 10. So, I've been focusing on what to do there. I mean, here's the thing. When I look at it, there's Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor. I think Jonathan Taylor seems to be the consensus number one right now.
Yep.
And then I guess, is it like Derrick Henry and McCaffrey? What?
Eckler is right there too.
Eckler
you named
too.
the three names and then Eckler. Some people are popping Najee up there, but it's JT or C.
Dalvin's still 5. Dalvin's a top 5.
Yeah, and Henry could still be, J-Mac, JT, C-Mac, or Henry. For me, if I'm stuck in that situation, I'm going with the safety net, and that's JT. I think Jonathan Taylor's the real deal. The youth, the lack of injuries.
Right.
I want to go C-Mac. I really do. If I'm feeling a little risky, I will. But it's between them two for me, and I'm probably going Taylor.
He's just always injured. I had him in a league last year. It hurts you so bad because it's usually midway through the season, and then it's always he's coming back this week. He's coming back this week, and he just never does.
Yep.
So honestly, I wouldn't if it were me for Christian McCaffrey, I wouldn't take him before 5.
Yeah.
I really
I've
wouldn't.
seen some drop him to 6. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting hot take, but we'll take it. Hey, let's move on to the Philadelphia Phillies. Got the P. They didn't come out too strong today, losing 1-0 in Cincinnati on getaway day, getting shut down by Nick Lodolo, lefty from Cincinnati, and then the bullpen just neutralized us. A night after coming off 11 runs, 18 hits, tough one. And it's tough for me in this sense that, I have a lot of faith in our bullpen right now, and it's an eerie feeling that I usually don't have. But
Right.
when Robertson came in, shut it down. And when Sir Anthony was coming in at ninth, I was like, that's cool. Just get us to the 10th, get us that guy at second. I'm going to feel good. Get 2 outs, and then the little things, the walk, the infield single, and then a single to end the game against a guy who hadn't really even touched the ball the first 3 at bats. So it kind of stung a little bit today just because, hey, I mean, winning 2 out of 3 is great. But it just felt like even though we weren't hitting, that game was in the situation that we needed to be.
Right.
Just get it to 10 and we were going to get there. So it hurts a little bit. I got to admit it does, especially when we got teams like, San Diego winning earlier today and they're up against us once again.
Yeah, no, I think it was a crucial loss. I mean, it doesn't throw their season out of whack, but that it hurts. When you have the weekend that you had in New York, you win a nail biter Friday night, great ending Friday night.
Yep.
And then Nola pitches a gem, and it doesn't matter because so does DeGrom. And then, you had a bad start by Wheeler Sunday. You come back, you win these 2 against the Reds. You really need the sweep there, especially going into a series with the Mets where you have 4. The thing is, I think you do avoid both DeGrom and Scherzer. I
You
think
do, because Scherzer went tonight. DeGrom goes tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah.
So you luck out in that situation. But what also hurts to me about today too, you lose 1-0. Ranger Suarez pitched really well again.
Yeah.
He has been pitching well lately. So you have Suarez and Nola giving you these fantastic outings, and you're losing.
2-1 games.
It's been a tale of 2 teams a little bit lately. I know they've been dealing with injuries. You lost March last night. I mean, not for his bat, but just in general,
But he's had some hits. Yeah.
Right. No, I'm saying the problem is you're just always ravaged by injuries lately. JT took a stinger off his wrist. I think he's fine, but that's, you're flirting with injury for this team. And we got good news that Bryce is getting ready to, do his rehab assignment soon. He's taking live BP, but they just haven't been able to avoid injuries. Really the big thing that's holding me back from being, I mean, I'm all in, but from having the faith that everything's going to turn out okay. They're still a playoff team to me. Don't get me wrong, but a loss like today, it's just one of those things that brings you back down to earth a little bit.
It does. I mean, especially coming off, you mentioned it earlier in the show, Friday night. I'm at the link watching the Eagles game. I get down to the pro shop on the way out, and one of the attendants in there, the cashier, starts cheering because we won the game. Vierling has the great throw from left field to get Marte out, and we create our own sacrifice fly, stick it up Keith Hernandez's you-know-what, and we're feeling good, right? We win a game like that, and then now all of a sudden we lose 1-0, we lose 6-0, then we lose again today 1-0, 3 shutouts in the last 5 games, and I'm with you. Winning those close ones felt great, and then lose that one today probably felt worse than win the other night. So that's not to say that I'm down. I'm not at all. Right. I feel great about this team still. I love the energy. I love what they're doing, and it was eventually going to catch up, and you're going to hit these snags. Let's just hope, let's beat the Mets one series. Let's just one series. Give me the damn dub against the Mets. They just can't do it. But I think they got a shot. And like you said, the most important thing is no DeGrom, no Scherzer. We saw how great DeGrom was. Great. I mean, this guy's throwing 101 on the dime We couldn't touch him. 10 Ks in 6 innings, and maybe one hard hit ball, maybe. So it's good to avoid them. We'll get Bassett. We'll see a couple of their other kind of minor league arms. They actually got a couple guys hurt the other day. Carrasco went out early, and then so did what's the other guy's name? Oh, it'll come to me. But he went out with the strain. But yeah, we'll have to see what they throw out there. Maybe throw David Peterson. It's going to be a big series, and the bank's going to be rocking this weekend.
Yeah, I actually think
Taiwan Walker.
That's it.
Yeah,
I actually think I'm going to try and get up there tomorrow or Friday night.
Nice. That a boy.
I haven't been to a Phillies game in a while. It's just been tough, and especially it's the mood is right now. Like it's for the longest time, it's just felt like there's nothing. You're just going to see it, and it's tough, and it's like the money that they charge you to go and see this, and it's for what? Now it's like let's they got everybody back in. I really think we're at a point where, but this series will be important too. I mean, you need at least to split. You need to at least split.
You do. Now
the one thing that's unfortunate, which is kind of annoying, Noah Syndergaard's not playing this weekend. It seems like, I don't know if it's actually true or not, but he had an opportunity to face the Mets earlier this year with the Angels and didn't. And then this time I know they worked him with the Angels, they had a 6-man rotation. But it just seems like he kind of ducked out of this one a little bit, which is frustrating. So he's not going to be there, which means we have a Bradley Falter game. I think Saturday night. It's either Saturday night or Saturday day, but one of the doubleheader games is a bullpen game. Which, when we got Syndergaard, I was like, okay, we're done with these now.
Yeah. Nope. No, yeah, that's interesting. He threw Monday night, so if you look even regular days rest, he's off Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. He should throw Saturday. Yeah. Even give him the Angels' 5th day, and he should go Sunday.
Sunday, right?
Yeah. If he dodges, there might be something to it. You might be onto something there, but I'm with you. A split is, the minimum in this series.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Mets were getting beat down by the Braves last couple of nights. They're up 6-5 late tonight, but I think they got beat 15-1 in 2 games by the Braves. So, tonight they're up 6-5 late in that game. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see what they roll out there this weekend too. But that's awesome. It's going to be rocking down there. I'm excited. I'm still all Phillied up. And I still think, in the end, Dodgers are beating the Brewers tonight. I still think the Brewers are the odd team out, and we can continue to stretch, maybe even make a little distance between us and them, not even make it a question come mid-September. But, hey, man, with that said, that's quick on the Phillies there. Yeah, you did mention Harper taking BP down at the park the other night, but I was looking at some of the Sixers stuff. The biggest news that came out this week, and always revolves around KD again, but there was a report that he's talking about retirement.
Right. He's playing.
And then all of a sudden he tweets out there, if you guys actually think I'm going to retire, I'm not retiring.
Yeah.
The guy is just, again, I get back to it. In last week I was out, and I still think I'm out. It's a little much for me. And I just think, I think this team needs that focus and attention on them, not one guy. But you got any other news coming out of the Sixers world right now?
No, I would say I haven't heard anything new. I mean, they still talk about really stuff revolving around KD. Again, in regards to roster shakeups, at this point, your teams are what they are. If something happens with KD, then obviously we're looking at, it could change the landscape of the NBA, obviously. But, the thing with that is it says there was a report that the Celtics and who am I thinking of? It's another East team.
Raptors?
Maybe Celtics and no. Maybe it was just they were just saying the Nets and the Celtics. Now, maybe it was that they've had no discussions of anything real. I know they said that the Celtics report was a while back, but there still hasn't been any traction with that. it seems like for more and more reasons, everybody's falling out of line except for the Sixers. And
True.
this one source, Scoop B, he's been somebody who's been around the NBA for a while. He usually gets a lot of things right. He's been close to the Nets situation all summer. He's been focused on them. And, somebody told me this shit is real. Not told me, told him that this shit is real when it comes to the Sixers' interest in Durant. But I'm with you. I know we had a kind of a big debate. I jumped in last minute, but there was Tony, you, Drumheller, a bunch of people involved in, the debate, whether it's worth it to bring in Durant or not. And I'd say I'm 55% no. That's where
okay. Yeah, hang out with me a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. I can see, the light of the tunnel of what bringing Durant would be. But I also think injury is a risk. And I think to give up Maxey for that and deplete the team when I think you did a lot of good work this offseason in making this team tougher and stronger and not having to rely on just a couple players, all players who are injury prone. You now brought in PJ Tucker, who's going to bring a new attitude. And also Daniel House and D'Anthony Melton have those attitudes too. They're not PJ Tuckers, but they both play really good defense. They're physical players. They're aggressive players. It's going to change really the whole face of this team. It's going to change the whole landscape of what they are. And I think there's a toughness that's going to be about them because, they talked about they weren't mentally strong enough to beat the Heat, in that series. Well, now you brought in the pieces around. I really don't want to see them have to give away everything to do it.
Yeah. No, I agree. And that's really like, I get some people's points. Like if you can't do it, you got to give Embiid one shot to do it with all this. And then if you can't, you tear it down anyway. But you tear it down with nothing, or do you tear it down and at least preserve some future? It's a hard, it's a hard move for Morey either way. And look, I'd like the 55-45 talk. I am on one side, but would I be mad if we got the ring? Not in the least bit. I'd be all fired up. So we'll see. But yeah, a lot of time left. Sixers will be taking the court soon here in the middle of September, starting to get ready for their season. So yeah, man. With that said, that kind of wraps up what we have for tonight. On this episode, we'll be getting closer and closer to our NFL preseason. Well, I should say season preview, where last year we both hit Super Bowl teams. One ended up with a winner, but pretty cool. We do it quite every year. We have a good knack for hitting on that. So that'll be coming up in the next 2 weeks here. And then we'll be breaking down, obviously, what we saw this week with the Browns and really what the final roster shape looks like as we get into it next week here on Fourth and Go. Mark, you got anything else?
No, I'm just looking forward to a weekend of Philly sports.
I know. It's going to be fun this weekend. I can't wait. The weather looks great too. Man, enjoy it down there Friday night if you get down there. And, let's bring home some dubs and have one next Wednesday too. But until that time, I'm Dave Gleckner. That's Mark Tomasini. Every Wednesday here on Heat Ratio Sports Network, we're Philly 4 for 4. So much more. Fourth and Go. That's right. Until